What up, though? I'd like to welcome you back to Landing on Mars podcast, the dopest podcast in the galaxy, and I'm your host, Nesto. Today's Sunday, so I'm really hoping everybody out there's having a wonderful day. Whether you chilling, whether you with the family, if you have to work, you know what I mean. Don't be tripping. Just be thankful that you have a job. Just count your blessings. Excuse me, got a little. Got to clear my throat a little bit. But nah, man. Today's Sunday. This is one of the first times that I actually recorded on a Sunday, and it's probably gonna end up dropping on a Sunday. It kind of looks stupid if it doesn't drop on a Sunday, but yeah, man. I hope everybody out there's having a wonderful day. Hope everybody out there's maintaining. Hope everybody out there's doing what they have to do. So let's just get right into it. Today is just it's just me today. I have a lot of things coming up, and when I say that, I don't say that to over exaggerate. I don't say that to keep people in suspense. Just recently, I do have a new location for Landon on Mars podcast. I've linked up with someone that I've known for a very good while. Haven't really don't really want to say too much, but ultimately, when it's me, this is probably going to be my location. This is probably going to be my scenery. But of course, when I have my guests coming in, I'm going to have them come, and I'm linking up with someone that is dependable, someone that I've known for a very long time, and like I told him, I'd rather make moves with someone that I know versus a stranger and versus just random people. You know what I mean? So it's dope that we actually got that put together, and pretty soon I will be, filming from over there and getting things done. And if everything goes good, I do have an engineer that is going to be linking up with me as well. So little by little, I'm putting a team together, and I say that to say, I don't know if y'all are too big on the podcast world, but right now in the podcast world, you have what you call the Joe Budden Podcast, and just recently he ended up firing his co-host, and I'm assuming that all three of them say it has nothing to do with money, but in hindsight, you kind of see that it kind of has something to do with money. When the workers start asking questions, and ultimately, when I first heard what was going on, I honestly thought, like, I kind of sided with Joe Budden, and not necessarily hearing everything that was going on as far as with the other gentleman. And so now that I've had a chance to hear a little bit more, now that I've had a chance to really not really like just kind of hear what people are reporting. I'm definitely not gonna go. I did not pay for Joe Budden's podcast on Spotify, and I'm not gonna go pay for it on. I'm not gonna go pay to listen to the response of what they're doing. So I'll hear it whenever I hear it, as far as whenever it gets on YouTube or whatnot. And it takes nothing away from the Joe Budden podcast to say that I wouldn't pay for it. A lot of podcasts are free, so it's not necessarily something you need to pay for. When a podcast you could ultimately find on YouTube, and that's what it should be. It's talk radio, and it's, you know what I mean. You make your money how you make your money. It is what it is. There's a whole different playing field for this, and I say that to say, like, just recently, one of me and my buddies, we're in the talks of like trying to put a podcast together with the both of us. And for me, I've never want to seem like a person that is not loyal to what I do, because I am. But a lot of times with me is I get really busy. I am engaged, so I'm always making sure that things at home are good, and then I'm always working, so I'm always making sure things at work are good as well. So it's kind of hard to balance what, you know what I mean, jumping out, like, because I'm doing my podcast, and I'm getting interviews, and I'm linking up, I'm scheduling with people, I'm doing what I got to do, and that already is a progress. And I guess not that I've slowed down, but ultimately I'm trying to roll this out the right way. I'm not trying to be like anybody else. I'm not trying to do what anybody else is doing, and that's why I applaud podcasting, because podcasting is ultimately what you want to do. It's not about what is really, it's like it is about what's out there, but ultimately this gives you your own platform. And even with music, like, just because everybody's doing this type of music doesn't mean you have to do it. If you could do the opposite and make it work for yourself, then hey man, like run with it. But I love what people do, and for me, I feel like when you link up with, especially with friends, and you want to do things with friends, but ultimately if y'all are being presented the same thing at the same time, then it's a good thing. But if once somebody starts talking without the people that mean something to the brand, then of course that's where things kind of get a little shady, and that's what I think happened with the Joe Budden podcast. Like first they were, I think it started before Everyday Struggle, and sure enough, when Joe Budden went to the Everyday Struggle, it kind of blew up, and I think when it blew up, Rory and Ma, they were already a part of the Joe Budden podcast. So, and then of course when Joe Budden got fired or when he left Everyday Struggle, that was a big thing going on. So, like the Joe Budden podcast, it has been pretty popular for a really good while, and that's why when you look at it, you don't just see Joe Budden, you see Rory, you see Ma, you see them as a unit, as one. So I think when Joe left Spotify, I mean when Joe left Everyday Struggle, he linked up with Spotify, and then after the Spotify deal was done, they went to Patreon, and I think I announced it on one of my news reels, and so they went to Patreon, and not only did Joe, I think he took more of a position there as like someone that's not only getting paid for his podcast but getting paid as an employee, and I think that's what kind of like, and of course his name is on it. His name is on the Joe Budden podcast, so he's doing something that is that's right, and as far as keeping his name, because companies can take your name. Perfect example, the founder, like the McDonald's family can't use McDonald's, like the way, and if you've seen that movie, you kind of know what it is. But a lot of businesses are like that. Like when you link up with someone, you ultimately want to go. You want to go together. You don't want to go separate. It's just the same thing. Like, but it's like you could look at the Rockefeller. Like the Rockefeller breakup. Like the deals that Dame was fighting for, Jay was turning down and making his own deals. So once you take the unit and separate them, it's kind of hard to bring it back. And I think that's at this particular point, I think the Joe Budden podcast is no more. And when I say, but when I don't say that it's gonna ultimately get canceled. Nah, hell no, because Joe Budden's gonna continue to go forward. He's that type of person. He's a person that he continues to go forward with it. He's not gonna stop for anybody. He's not gonna stop for people. It's just like music. You know what I mean? He was in Slaughterhouse and they moved on. He moved on. I just think you're not going to see Rory and Ma on that. And I wasn't really big fans of those gentlemen. The reason why I started listening to the podcast, because of course it was the Joe Budden podcast. So that's what attracted me to it, because of course Joe Budden had already a household name with the music. So now him jumping into the podcast world, it was just you know what I mean? Like he's more known than what those gentlemen are. And that just leads me to like, man, like it's hard to link up with people, even like just working together. Like for a very long time I had one engineer that used to do all my stuff, and this is a very talented person. But of course he has his life, I have my life, so it's never like we're always on different time schedules. So it's hard for me to like, it's hard for him to be like, hey, I could do the music, or I can't do the music, and me having to find other people, it's hard because I've never get the sound that I like, because my homie was doing my engineering for so long. So it's hard, especially if you're gonna link up with someone and if you're gonna move forward and you're gonna put a business together. It's more than just saying, hey, we're gonna sit down and talk. We're gonna have a conversation. Like it had, like, you know what I mean? Like me and the homie were going back and forth with names and stuff, and I was like, yo man, this shit could really pop. And it can, because me and this person, we come from two different worlds, and us colliding, our worlds always collide, and it's always magic. Like it's always like you would not expect us coming from different backgrounds, because even with our music, every time I drop the album, or every time I dropped a mixtape, he was on it. So with the music, it always sounded dope. You know, like we always had that sound that we could always make a track together. We could always have a topic together, and he's actually been on the podcast. So yeah, man, and I think with something like that, I would want us to sit down and really, you know what I mean? Like let's put pen to the paper because we could just sit back and just like it's not about having it's about having fun, but it's not about just sitting down and just getting in front of a camera recording ourselves. It's about us taking it serious to the point where yo man, we could get paid for this. We could get to that point where we're not only putting our content out, but we're putting our content out and our content is making us money. It's not we're not thinking little no more. We're at the point where we're thinking big. And like I said, once me and the homie we get to the point, because that like on the real, I never thought of having a podcast with someone in the beginning, and I had a couple of people that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a co-host because I always heard that having a co-host is a lot better. It's hard to carry a podcast as a one man person, and that's what I'm doing. Like I'm carrying my brand, I'm carrying my name, I'm running with it because I'm not gonna stand still and wait for people. So like in the beginning, I did that. I had some people and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, cool, I got you," and then nothing ever came through. So at this particular point, when it comes to a co-host, I never thought about that. So when the homie came to me and we talked about it, it was like, cool, that shit sounds dope. And like I said, the biggest thing was we're both unique in our own ways, like, and we both come from two different worlds. So us putting our worlds together, man, I know the world would love it. And ultimately it's everyday life, it's everyday what we're doing, you know. And I don't like I said, when I heard everything going on with Joe Budden, I was on Joe Budden's side. And I'm not saying I'm on their side, but yo, when you get to a particular point, when you start making new deals, when you start signing new papers, you have to be able to get some equity from this shit. You can't just not get a percentage. You can't not just do this and just get a paycheck because you're trying to, like, it's awesome to be able to do what you love and get a paycheck for it, but especially when you have a brand and you're pushing that brand so far, yo, you want a little bit more. And that's why us, not just me, but anybody out here doing this, don't just like don't just jump into this shit and just think that there's no money out of this. Like, we see it every day. Like, we live in the microwave era where everybody just wants to bam be popular. Everybody just wants to be successful, but ultimately what comes hard will last. What comes easy won't. And you can take that with a grain of salt. You can take that how you want to take it, you know, but that's just, at the end of the day, that's just real, man. Like, a lot of what comes easy, like, I always use an example. Like, if somebody gave you $100, you're probably just going to go spend that. You're not going to care about it. But when you put 2 hours, 4 hours into making $100, you're going to watch how you spend it. And that's just what I say, man. Like, I haven't talked to this homie in a while, and he had hit me up, and he was like, "Hey, man, let's do a track together." And I'm like, "All right, cool, let's do it." And then he sends me a YouTube beat. I've always said it, man. I don't do YouTube beats. If we're gonna do a song, and then he hit me like, "Yo, let's do a mixtape," and I'm like, no, like, not in a bad way, but at this particular point, when I have the sources to put my music on streaming platforms, I'm not gonna just go waste my lyrics and waste this. And like, even at the point where I'm at, like, and I'm not even saying that to be like, oh, I'm cocky, I'm this and that. Like, nah, man. Like, when it comes to music, I love doing music. It's always been therapeutic for me. I never really took it as a challenge. As far as anybody else, what challenges me is the bars that I spit and me trying to be better. And then with me on the point where I'm in the process of getting the track list together for my, I would say, like, my last album. Like, I'm not in that realm no more, so I'm not gonna like really waste a lot of time on it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and, like, you know what I mean, like, battle. And it's crazy, man, because like, we've came up, like, a lot of us came up from just, you know, being like the way we in the homie T, we talked about it, like, having just regular fucking like little mics and not having a pop filter, not knowing what this was, not knowing what that was, and now you learn, you know what I mean? You learn, you learn the game, you know how to play it, you know how to keep going with it, and it's like, man, like I said, man, like I love doing music. I will always feel like I'll be doing something with music, but when it comes to the podcasting, when it comes to interviewing, and when it comes to getting the 411 on people's success, that's where I'm at. That's where my passion is at right now. That's where, like, and that's why it's not, let's take this, it's not like let's just play with this. It's let's take this serious and let's run with it, because we all have ideas, but what holds us back is ourselves, because we feel like no one's gonna respect our ideas. You know what I mean? But everybody's willing to go turn on a celebrity podcast and, you know what I mean, understand what they're trying to talk about. But when it's an everyday person, not everybody's willing to, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't offend me when people listen to my stuff. It doesn't. I appreciate when people listen to me out here and me doing what I do. That's why when it's about myself, I don't really keep a lot of y'all's attention, because I want to be bringing y'all something positive, and of course, me having a guest and me being able to ask questions and, you know, being able to understand how this person got to where they're at. I feel that's more interesting. So I'm never gonna waste time with my audience just to bullshit. You know, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna give y'all, like I said, with this right here, it was like, you know, it's one thing that there's a couple of things that I could get from the Joe Budden podcast breakup, and it's not nothing that it's been new. It's ultimately shit that's been recycled, because in the beginning of the music, like, it all starts with the music. Music is a form to get you inside the door. You get one foot in the door. Clothes, shoes, you know, liquor, water, everything. Once you get your foot inside the door of music, it opens all those doors. So music is never, unless you're Lil Wayne, unless you're Tupac, unless you're Jay-Z or Nas, unless you're an artist like that, then you're going to live off of your music for the rest of your life. And all these gentlemen that I have named, they probably had a water, they probably had a liquor, they probably had a shoe. They embrace, you know, and that's what it is, man. Like, you can never take friendship for granted. And when you have friends, and when friends become family, because you can have friends that are family, and family that ain't nothing to you, you know, like, that's just how it is. So it's like, you know, like, sometimes that's just what it is. It's not, you know what I mean, the way they say, like, blood's thicker than water. You always want to stick by your family, but especially when you put something together with someone that has dedicated time, and anybody that believes in your vision, you know, anybody that is like that deserves more than just, hey, we're gonna do this together, we're gonna link up, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it takes editing, it takes putting this together, it takes the little ads, you know, like, it takes all of it, you know. So ultimately, you have to be able to give that to the person that you're working with, and, you know, just loyalty, respect, and just, you know, making sure that it happens. Making sure that you put this together the right way, because you never want to just be involved with something that's not gonna be in it for longevity. Like, a lot of things that I put together, and a lot of things that I try to do, you know, I put trust in people. And, you know, like, one thing about people is people let me down, and I never hold a grudge. I never look at it like, oh, I hate you and this and that. You know, at the end of the day, you grow, and you kind of grow apart, whether you know, whatever you're doing, you know, like, you grow, you know, and you can't be mad at another man for taking care of responsibility. And you got to be able to respect whoever you have around you and whoever you want to go to the next level with you. And some people are willing to put the time in, and some people are not. And at the end of the day, man, that's what it all comes down to. If you support me, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. Let's get to 100 subscribers so I could give something away, man. I told my fiance that I'm ready to give something away. It's not going to be nothing big, because in real life I got a lot of big things going on. But to show everybody respect out there, I want to give away something, you know what I mean? So Let's get to 100 subscribers. Like I said, man, pretty soon I will be in an official building. Like I said, man, I linked up with somebody, and I'm going to show respect to the person I'm around, and hopefully we get it together, and we'll sit down, we'll take it, you know what I mean, we'll take it to the next level with it, if we end up getting our podcast together. And like I said, man, we're not going to be no Joe Budden podcast. We're not going to be that. If you look at Drink Champs, DJ EFN, and NORE, they solid. And I think they solid because they had that sit down in the beginning of it. And we're not trying to go backwards. We're trying to go forward with this. And like I said, man, this is Landing on Mars podcast. I'm your host, Nesto, the dopest podcast in the galaxy. And you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you decided to be here today. I really appreciate that. Y'all have a wonderful day. Y'all have a wonderful night. Y'all be safe out there. Y'all stay positive, stay focused, and continue grinding. Yalla.